shoots and scores! Long pull goal, 40 yards away. 10-4 Cuse. 12:20 to go in the third. Unbelievable stuff.
With the goal, Dwan has the third most goals by a long stick in Syracuse history. Despite all the milestones SU had, Colgate was still hanging around.
Here comes Colgate down the left side of the field, looking to make this a 4-goal game. With just under 2 minutes to go, third quarter, open chance and a quick score. Ryan Favreau waiting on the back door thanks to a great feed from Liam Connor. Don't look now, but it's a 4-goal game with under 2 minutes to go in the third. 12-8 Syracuse.
Trailing 13-8 heading into the final frame, the Raiders started to chip away, pulling within 3 thanks to back-to-back goals from attackman Casey Quinson. Then one of Colgate's top options got in on the fun.
Here comes Colgate down the left side of the field, looking to make this a 4-goal game. With just under 2 minutes to go, third quarter, open chance and a quick score. Ryan Favreau waiting on the back door thanks to a great feed from Liam Connor. Don't look now, but it's a 4-goal game with under 2 minutes to go in the third. 12-8 Syracuse.
So it was Rory Connor scoring the goal to make it 13-11 Syracuse, and that goal marked a 3-0 run for the Raiders to start the fourth quarter, yet Syracuse responded from one of its hottest scorers.
Tight passing, gunned inside, Spallina backdoor, Deer puts it in! Tic-tac-toe go the Orange, and Trey Deer makes Colgate pay. Syracuse back up 3, 7:53 to go.
That score was Deer's fourth of the day, a career-high tying mark which he set last time out against Manhattan just a few days ago. Colgate pulled back within 2 after a man-up goal from midfielder Hunter Druin with under 3 minutes left, but Syracuse would go back to none other than Joey Spallina.
Spallina passes to Hiltz. He goes to X. Back to Spallina, near side GLE. 10 seconds to shoot. Spins, frees his hands, shoots, and scores! Joey Spallina has the dagger. His 11th point of the day and his 5th goal. 15-12 Syracuse, 1:15 left.
Spallina's goal marked his 11th point of the game, the first time an SU player has had 11 or more points since Casey Powell put up 13 back in 1997. Almost 30 years ago, Spallina's career day was enough to push the Orange over the hump.
On the back of a career-high 18 saves from Jimmy McCool and a career-high 11 points from Joey Spallina, number 10 Syracuse downs number 18 Colgate 16-12 and will roll into Charlottesville on a 4-game winning streak next weekend when ACC play starts.
I heard Joey Spallina had a career-high 11 points. He must deserve the Pepsi Player of the Game this afternoon after Syracuse takes down Colgate 16-12 in the Dome today. A historic afternoon for Syracuse, a historic afternoon for Joey Spallina and Owen Hiltz hitting that 200 career point mark, and for Spallina himself, 5 goals, 6 assists to equivalent to a career-high 11 points for Spallina here on this afternoon. Well, that just about does it here on Orange Overtime. Again, Syracuse defeats Colgate 16-12. A great win for the Orange. They've won 4 straight, and they've also now recorded a 3-2 record against ranked opponents this year, and they'll look to get a few days to regroup, and then they'll head down to Charlottesville next Saturday. That'll be the 29th of March. Syracuse at Virginia for the next game, gearing up for a very tough schedule right after that. Face-off will be at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Countdown to face-off, brought to you by McClurg Remodeling, is at 12:30 next Saturday. So tune in at 12:30 for our coverage. Again, the game action starts at 1 next Saturday between Syracuse and Virginia. A couple thank yous to hand out here during our broadcast today. Our producer, Max Gifford, running the ship. Our engineer, Gino Antamarino, clicking all the buttons today. And Corey Miller on radio replay, and our WAER sports desk behind the scenes, making this all possible on social media, which you can check out as well at WAER Sports Talk. Our coverage is not over, though. I can tell you that. We're on the air till 3:30 with the double overtime. We're going to break down the Syracuse and Colgate game. The Orange got off to a fast start, but Colgate scored 3 right off the bat in the fourth quarter to make it interesting. I'll be on the show along with John Baccio, our producer Griffin Marcy. Should be a fun next 45 minutes or so with the double overtime. You can give us a call at 315-443-2011. Again, the final score, Syracuse 16, Colgate 12. And with that, it's the double overtime. John Baccio, a great win for the Cuse today despite a scary fourth quarter, but the Orange fend off the Raiders.
Yeah, big Nico. A very big win for the Syracuse Orange. Number 10 SU Downs, number 18 Colgate, 16-12 in the Dome. A lot to talk about in this short 45-minute span. We're going to talk about Syracuse's offense, how they were up and down today, but for the most part, commanding the ship as this game went along. Colgate started really slow, then picked it up in the second half. We'll also have our reporter Rahil Jasbal on to talk about everything he saw from the Dome. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
English charging at Cage, has an angle, shoots high, and connects with the back of the net. Stevens ahead for English. 4 seconds left. English has to run in. He skips it. 5-hole and scores. 1 second left. We're headed to overtime.
Passes behind the cage. A cutter in front. A behind the back and a score. Syracuse strikes first against number 1. And Finn Thompson with the theatrics
And the lows.
Fine, caught in a world of trouble. He turns it over. Duke on the fast break. 1-on-none. Zawada shoots high and scores high. Right down Broadway to English. Rings it off the pipe and out. How many of those have we seen today? Devastation. Denver beats Syracuse 10-8 in the 2024 NCAA Tournament quarterfinal.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
How do you not get up for this game? Like, I understand Duke is more angry, but Syracuse has probably more to prove than Duke does.
This did not look like previous games against Notre Dame. You can tell Syracuse is a completely different team as it's been for the last 3 to 4 seasons. When you're giving up 20 turnovers, when less than half of your shots are on goal, you can't be considering yourself a top 5 team. You can't be considering yourself back.
And I was shocked that they dominated this much, but this just shows you the difference with this team. One of the reasons Syracuse held on to win this game is because when they went up 12-8 in the fourth quarter, they kept winning faceoffs and were able to take a minute 20 off the clock, which limited the possessions Hopkins had in the fourth period.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or by tweeting us at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the double overtime. Number 10 Syracuse takes down number 18 Colgate 16-12 in the JMA Wireless Dome. Alongside Nico Horning, I'm John Baccio. If you want to call in and voice your thoughts on SU's win, you could do so at 315-443-2011. You could also text us at 315-556-3929 or reach us on YouTube and Twitter at WAER Sports Talk. Nico, a huge win for SU in this one as they beat another ranked foe in Colgate. But I wanted to start off by talking about this Syracuse offense because, wow, it looked really impressive today. Joey Spallina, a career-high 11 points, the most by an SU individual since 1997. He was all over the place. Joey Spallina might have just made a case to be a top 3 player in college lacrosse.
Spallina had an incredible day for Syracuse, but so did this offense. Of course, Spallina's numbers are off the charts. 5 goals, 6 assists, like you mentioned, the career-high 11 points. And the question coming into the season, first off, was, everyone knew the offense was going to be something to watch for. And it seems like pretty much every game it has been that dominant, except for the Harvard game. Maryland, they were also very slow. But since those games, this team, I've been really impressed the way they've responded. And I was expecting this game to be more of a back-and-forth affair today against Colgate, another very good offensive team. But it wasn't, and that's because the Syracuse offense got off to a very hot start in the game, and a lot of that can be credited to Spallina, also Owen Hiltz with an early hat trick. So my initial thoughts with this offense is they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're still impressing, and that's why they're one of the top 7 scoring offenses in the country. But so is Colgate, but they struggled a little bit today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Syracuse's offense, they were all over the place today. And this is just what's naturally going to happen when you don't have anybody guarding Spallina at X, right? Colgate plays a 2-4 where they've got 2 right in front of the cage and 4 defenders kind of guarding the 10, 15-yard out area because they know Syracuse likes to play that 6-wide sort of offense. And from X, Spallina dominated today. There was nobody there, and as soon as he came up along goal line extended, the slide wouldn't get to him fast enough, or they would overcommit on the slide, and Spallina was all over it. His playmaking abilities were on full display in this one. Trey Deer and Joey Spallina is a connection that most teams would die for in college lacrosse. Those two were connecting all day long. Deer just sits on the doorstep, and you know someone will hit him at some point. The play that sticks out the most there has got to be when Sam English found him from almost nowhere, right? Or rather, English is all the way out, probably 20 yards out on the far side, has one defender on him, kind of bobbles the ball, looks up, and all of a sudden, bang, he's got Deer on the doorstep to score. That was his 3rd of the game. Deer ended up with 4, right? This offense was just so electric today, finding the right pass constantly, and that was a big message for SU. And you talk about finding the right pass. There's nobody better to do it than Joey Spallina.
Well, I want to go back to the way Colgate plays and their style, because you do talk about leaving Spallina unguarded at times at X. And for him to take advantage the way he did, because, look, if they stop Spallina, and that comes to fruition because they're guarding everyone else outside, this game could have been a very different outcome. But because Joey Spallina found a way to combat all that, and Colgate really didn't defend him that well, he ends up with 11 points. And that's the reason why Syracuse won today. But I don't think it's a terrible approach from Colgate, because if you do stop him, then you're going to a few other people, and they're not exactly, taking advantage all the time. But unfortunately for Colgate, Spallina did what he's known to do even better, and that's why Colgate lost the game today.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say it's not a terrible idea. It kind of panned out today as a terrible idea.
It did, but if Spallina even scored half the amount of points he had, this is a very close. This is a tight game. Probably going
he's
overtime.
a guy that you have to put a guy out on him. There's nothing that you can do if you're the Colgate defense.
But again, going back to the offensive versatility, I think Colgate realizes there's so many weapons offensively for Syracuse, especially this year, maybe compared to the past few years where it was Spallina and a couple others. Now you got 5, 6, 7 other guys you can go to. So with that being said, I think they're fine letting Spallina do his thing as long as everyone else doesn't do a whole lot. Which in the case today, Hiltz still scored several times with 3 goals. Deer had 4, and Spallina went off with 5. So I think their approach was fine. They just didn't take advantage, because I think Syracuse played better offense than Colgate had to offer defensively.
Yeah, well, the difference between, you say they didn't have a bad approach. I would approach this one as a pretty bad one, right? I mean, you leave Joey Spallina to do whatever he wants, and he's the best playmaker in the game. That's basically undeniable at this point.
But what if no one else had any action?
Well,
today?
the difference is that when Spallina comes up and he's playmaking, right? If he's coming up along the crease, the slide goes to him automatically. That's leaving a man open, no matter who it is. It could be Trey Deer or it could be Greg Elijah Brown, right?
Sure.
No matter who the player is, Spallina's going to create space for them. So staying off of Spallina and letting him do whatever he wants with the game is a bad idea, and it didn't work out last year. He had 9 points, 4 goals, and 5 assists. It didn't work out this year. 11 points, 5 goals, 6 assists, and it happened on 2 of Joey Spallina's goals, 2 of his 5 today, right, where Spallina comes up, he draws the slide immediately. You had 2 defenders overstep him. One of them, Spallina rolled off of it and had an easy shot right at the doorstep. The other one, he kind of stutter steps, just takes a quick step back, and bang, another goal right there. It's plays like that. When you put the game in Joey Spallina's hands, he's going to do whatever he wants with it.
Most likely. A lot of people compared this game to the Harvard game about a month ago by now.
Sure, and I think that's purely because of rankings and the colors of the teams.
Correct.
Right? These are 2 totally different teams.
100%. I mean, this Colgate offense is this Colgate team to me is underrated coming into today. Now, today didn't pan out the way they'd want. Syracuse played well, but to me, with Spallina, you talk about him not making mistakes, taking advantage. Against Harvard, he did make mistakes, some bad passes, some overthrows. Syracuse couldn't afford to have that today. Really, they can't afford to have that the rest of the season.
Yeah,
they want to win a national championship.
I
that's
honestly
why
think
that's why Spallina had a great day, because he took care of the little things and posted a career day offensively.
Yeah, I truly think that the biggest difference between that Joey Spallina and this Joey Spallina is the guy that he has right by his side. We talked about Trey Deer earlier, but when you have somebody who they've already built that connection, box lacrosse in the offseason, they've been playing together for the last few years, and when you translate that into the field game, obviously two totally different styles of lacrosse, but still, the connection that those two have built has been so strong, not only over the course of the season, but over the course of their entire playing careers in college at least. Those two connect on such a good level that when you allow Joey Spallina to make moves and play at his own pace, if he finds Deer, it's going to be almost an automatic goal every single time, which having Trey Deer in the lineup rather than Finn Thompson so far has played out really well for Syracuse, right? There has been a noticeable jump in the electricity of this offense.
There is a jump with that. Deer is an extra spark plug or something, because, I mean, Thompson's a great player, obviously one of the top goal scorers for Syracuse, but the way Trey Deer is changed this team by getting some more opportunities and Spallina trusting him, and they've talked over and over. They talked about it after the game on Tuesday. You know, Spallina's like, okay, Finn's out, it sucks, but I have full faith in Trey, and we work well together, and there seems to be no drop-off there, which you look at any other team, most likely there would be a drop-off based on a depth chart change or injury or something along that note. But Trey Deer has been very impressive. He had a hat trick in the second quarter against Manhattan. 4 goals there, 4 goals today, ties his career high once again. They are working really, really well together. And this is a championship caliber team when you talk about the depth and the amount of options that you can go to. If they play like this the rest of the season, they do have a good shot.
They make a really strong case. The only thing that kind of worried me was the defense in the second half that didn't look too strong, but purely offensively, which is what you're kind of talking about here, this offense is so fun to watch. The ball movement that this team puts together on such a consistent basis. You had Colgate playing the 10-man ride, and Syracuse was taking advantage of it all day long. Sam English is the guy that can push the pace in transition, get by a defender. The one play where it was even the face-off, where Johnny Mullen wins it behind the back to Spallina. Spallina finds Deer on the doorstep for an easy score. It's plays like that that make this offense so fun to watch, and it builds momentum really, really well. And you saw it from the very beginning on the goal where Joey Spallina and Hiltz both got their 200th point, right? That was one where Spallina had an easy look at Hiltz, who was cutting into the middle of the field. They both connected, and boom, there you go, 200 points on both of their careers. A crazy milestone. Spallina, the second fastest player in SU history to hit that, and Owen Hiltz has hit it in just about double the games, but still so impressive.
Well, you saw it 5 seconds in when Owen Hiltz scored that goal as well. This offense came out hot and heavy today. I think that's my biggest takeaway. Despite the way Spallina played, despite a couple of career highs again, the way they jumped out on Colgate was something that we needed to see from this team, because they did not do it against Harvard. They need to continue to do it against these other ranked opponents coming up when the schedule gets even tougher. And the way they set the tone was very, very impressive, took advantage of home field, and it's going to be something they're going to have to do down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side, we're up against a quick break here. We're going to stray away from Syracuse a little bit, talk a little bit more about Colgate, who had a lot of ups and a lot of downs in this one. We'll talk about it all on the other side of a break. It's the double overtime, back in just a bit.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
You got great talent on this offense. Like, you can't go dormant for an entire quarter. And
the Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions, plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
Joined by Georgia Tech play-by-play broadcaster Andy Demetra, Syracuse.com, football beat reporter Emily Laker.
Check out weekly interviews on YouTube and listen at waer.org or wherever you get your podcast.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pour over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click donate.
backdoor feed for Spallina. Thought about a shot. Keeps it back in his grasp. Puts it out in front for Hiltz. Quick shot and a score. There it is. 200 squared. Spallina to Hiltz. They both reach 200 career points.
Back here on the double overtime. Syracuse defeats Colgate 16-12. Another ranked win for Syracuse. Their fourth straight victory as well. Nico Horning, John Baccio breaking things down here on WAER. We talked about the Syracuse offense. We talked about Joey Spallina's career day, 11 points, 5 goals, 6 assists. But that Colgate offense, which also came into the game, a top 7 offense in the nation. You know, coming into today, John, there was Syracuse was one of the top offenses, and the only other ranked teams that were actually above them that had better offenses was Notre Dame and Colgate. And this offense today from the Raiders came up a bit short. I think a lot of it could be credited to Syracuse kind of setting the tone offensively, but the Raiders only had 2 goals at halftime. It was an 8-2 Syracuse lead. Colgate was held scoreless in the second quarter. If you at home think that the Colgate offense was not very good in the first half, give us a call and give us your thoughts as to why at 315-443-2011. You can also text us at 315-556-3929. That Raiders offense was slow, and I don't know. It was a tough start for them. I think Syracuse had the better, though, as far as I think Syracuse set the tone more than Colgate played bad offensively, as bad as the numbers look.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a product of Jimmy McCool going off in the first half. Yeah. He had a career-high 13 saves in just the first 30 minutes, and that was a big reason as to why SU truly set the tone on defense. But then we saw in the second half there wasn't much Jimmy McCool could do as he kind of cooled down, and Syracuse, and Syracuse's defense had a lot of miscommunications that the Raiders took advantage of all day long, right? You had the miscommunications in this one, specifically on the goal by Connor, right? It was the second half late in the game. There was a slide from Billy Dwan that it's from X. Connor gets the slide, comes up from the crease, and there's a wide open man right in the middle. Michael Grace overcommits on it because he had to try and play help defense, and right on the doorstep, and it creates an open goal for Colgate. It was small.
Do you remember which Connor it was?
Roy.
Okay.
It was Roy Connor. It's small little miscommunications like that started to get to Syracuse in the second half. You saw it was a 6-5 half scoring-wise, or 6-5 third quarter scoring-wise in favor of Colgate, and then 4-3 Colgate in the fourth as well. It was small little plays where Syracuse was overcommitting on slides or miscommunicating on where the play should be. Those were the things that really killed SU down the stretch. Luckily, they built up enough of a lead in the first half that they didn't have to worry all too much about it, but definitely something to keep note of, especially when you march into Charlottesville against UVA offense.
Roy Connor and Liam Connor, 2 brothers on the Colgate team. Each of them had 2 goals today. Actually, 5 players on Colgate had 2 goals each. 6 players, Quinton as well. So the versatility was there from Colgate, but they couldn't exactly put the numbers on in the first half. They did in the second half, though. You started mentioning and gearing up for that second half. Colgate came out strong in the third, outscoring Syracuse 6-5, and then had the first 3 goals in the fourth. So as bad as the offense was from Colgate early on, they did fix some things later on in the fourth. And I think personally that a lot of that was credited because they got more physical. They really put it all on the line. There was a lot of penalties in a messy fourth quarter. And
more on Syracuse than on Colgate.
True, but things ramped up a little bit. And I think it started, even though Syracuse did have more penalties in that situation, Colgate fed into it, and I think they used that to their advantage in the fourth quarter to try and get back in this thing, and it worked for the first 3 goals of that fourth frame.
Yeah, absolutely. Colgate definitely got more physical as the game went along. You saw a lot of pushing and shoving.
Sort of slowing the game down and trying to score. I mean, the only way I can equivalent that is basketball, trying to score at the free throw line. You're down by 10 with 5-10 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah,
and you got to slow things down. I think that's what they did. It worked. They got within 2.
You saw that it was getting to SU's head as well.
Yes, exactly.
When Syracuse was on offense, you had Spallina get clobbered to the ground. He gets back up, shoves a Colgate player with his stick, gives him a check while the ball is nowhere near him, and it caused a Syracuse turnover. That gave Colgate the ball right back. It's little things like that, little bits of pushing and shoving that worked in Colgate's favor as the game went along.
What'd you see from Colgate's goaltender in Lacombe? Because, I mean, Syracuse laid it all out on the line in the first half. And I just don't think that Colgate really had much of an opportunity offensively either. Because you talk about the faceoffs, and John Mullen had a good day as well. I mean, he's the guy that Syracuse needs to rely on over and over. And that's one of the things we actually talked about on Sports Night last night with Rahil Jaswal, who'll be joining us in a few minutes. He's at the Dome. But we talked about if Mullen can establish face-off wins against Colgate and continue to do what he's done all season, this team will be fine offensively, and they took advantage of most of those opportunities.
Yeah, so I'll address your original question with Lacombe, right? The first half was really shaky from him, and I put it in my notes. He looked afraid of the ball. On Owen Hiltz's hat-trick score, where it's a sidewinder, and obviously Hiltz is going to get a lot of velocity behind his shots, but you had him stepping out of the way of the ball, which that's rookie lacrosse, right? The first thing you're taught as a goalie is to step to the ball, and when he was caught on his weak side, he was turning his head away from it, which didn't necessarily help him at all in the early goings. Once Colgate started picking up steam, Lacombe did as well, definitely got a lot better as the game progressed, but early on it looked like this was his first time seeing a collegiate shot, which, I mean, he got more comfortable as it went along, as I said, but ultimately there were plays where there were savable shots that were made, and Lacombe couldn't stop him. As for Mullen, I mean, he's one of the best face-off guys in the nation. We all know this by now.
Yep.
Leads the nation in face-off percentage, and he was winning Syracuse a lot of valuable possessions as this game went down to the wire. What didn't fare too well for Syracuse was when Mullen had the misconduct on the face-off that forced another player to go in. Colgate got possession immediately and scored on that one. That was in the third quarter. It was miniature stuff like that.
Hey, those little things can't fly in the last few games of the season. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuff like that didn't really bode well for Syracuse, and John Mullen definitely was at fault for some things like that. You also had the one play where Mullen tried going over the shoulder and turned the ball over. That led straight to a Colgate goal. That was in the early goings of the second half. Many things like that are going to kill Syracuse at some points, but ultimately he won him enough possessions that you can't fault him for these tiny mistakes.
Right. At least for this game. But we'll see what happens going forward with those tiny mistakes.
Yeah, against higher-ranked opponents, that one's not going to slide.
No, not at all. Syracuse beats Colgate today 16-12 here on WAER Syracuse. The 10th-ranked Syracuse Orange and the 18th-ranked Colgate Raiders. The slow Colgate offense early on. Some of those smaller mistakes, though, they really can't happen going forward. And you talk about the turnovers. Each team had 15, but Colgate not taking care of the ball, especially early. And do you think it was more tougher Syracuse defense, or was it Colgate simply having mistakes to lead to that? You can give us a call at 315-443-2011. John, what'd you see exactly on those turnovers early on in the game, especially in the first half?
Yeah, I would say that it was sloppy play from Colgate originally, and then as the game kind of went on in the fourth quarter, you had in the first 5 minutes 4 combined turnovers, and 3 of them were from Colgate. I think it was mainly just the lights being a bit too bright to start. You walk into the Dome and you're playing number 10 Syracuse. That's never an easy game to enter into, and Colgate kind of felt that pressure early on. They had a few miscommunications on passes, and obviously Syracuse is going to pick up on them as such a good defense. So it looks like a product of both, and I think at some points you can say that it was more Syracuse's defense doing it than Colgate's offense, but for the most part, as Colgate was trying to ease into this game, the Raiders definitely had some sloppy passes here and there that were hurting them in the long run.
So it's interesting because, we can sit here and break down this game all we want, but this is I didn't want to call this a get-right game. It's sort of... it's not a get-right game, but it sort of felt like that midway through the game. Like, okay, this team's dominating. By
the time they hit the locker rooms, for sure.
Yes, they got to close things out, but then they let Colgate slide back into the game a little bit. And if you're sitting here watching Syracuse play a Notre Dame or play a Duke, and that happens, you might get screwed in that second half. So to me, this is a great first half for Syracuse that they have to take in to those games coming up, because let's run through the schedule real quick. After Virginia, you have a Notre Dame team, you got Duke, and you have North Carolina at some point in there as well. Cornell, one of the best teams in the country. And this schedule's only going to get tougher for the Orange. They have to fix the little mistakes going forward.
Absolutely. And Jimmy McCool was great today, but you can't count on him to have 18 saves and only 12 goals allowed in games against offenses like Notre Dame or Cornell, who has C.J. Kirst, who has 8 goals right now and might have more.
I know. Crazy.
Stuff like that's absolutely insane, especially with that game on Long Island. That one's going to get really chippy. 22 combined players on Syracuse and Cornell from Long Island. So games like that, you're not going to get a Jimmy McCool 18 save performance every time. You're not going to get these bad turnovers that Syracuse causes. Like 6 calls turnovers isn't going to happen in every single contest, and you can't sort of rely on that. Syracuse built up a big lead on offense early on, but once again, it's going to be really difficult to get that sort of production every game without a response. So you look forward and you say Syracuse has really got to up the ante. You've got, as of right now, 2 top 5 opponents on the schedule.
It's going to be a tough end for Syracuse, but first things first, that is Virginia next Saturday against Syracuse. And before that, we have our reporter Rahil Jaswal joining us on the other side with about 20 minutes or so to go here on the double overtime. 10th-ranked Syracuse 16, 18th-ranked Colgate 12, the 4th straight victory for the Orange today. Rahil joins us on the other side. We'll break down the game with him and get his perspective. He was at the Dome today. Don't go anywhere here on the double overtime. Nico Horning, John Baccio when we return.
Hey there, WAER listeners. Want to stay in the loop with all the latest news, behind-the-scenes moments, and exclusive content? Follow us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok for the stories you won't hear anywhere else. From breaking news to fun interactive posts, it's all happening online. Don't miss out. Hit that follow button and be a part of the conversation with WAER.
On the next Putumayo World Music Hour,
we'll hear songs in French from all over the planet on Fête Française. I'm Dan Storper.
And I'm Rosalie Howard. Pack your bags and join us for the next Putumayo World Music Hour.
Sunday night at 11 on WAER.
We are underway between the Orange and the Raiders. An early face-off win for Johnny Mullen. Sent to the right wing for Hilt. Shot and a score. Oh, what a start for Syracuse. 5 seconds in. Owen Hilt stings it in the top left corner.
Welcome back into the double overtime. Nico Horning alongside myself, John Baccio. Number 10, Syracuse takes down number 18, Colgate 16-12 in the JMA Wireless Dome. If you want to call in and voice your thoughts on SU's win, you can do so at 315-443-2011. You can also text us at 315-556-3929 or connect with us on Twitter and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. We're joined by our reporter, Rahil Jaswal from the Dome. Rahil, the eyes and ears of what was going on here in Syracuse, New York. Overall, how was the feel of this game, Rahil?
John, it was a lot of fun, especially in that third and fourth quarter. You could tell that this was a Central New York showdown with the chippiness. There was a great crowd today. A lot of fans back and forth. I mean, a lot of complaining about the officials from both sides and the fans. It was everything you'd want out of a Central New York showdown lacrosse game. It was a really awesome atmosphere in the third and fourth quarter.
So you talk about this game getting really chippy. I wanted to ask you, what did you see as sort of the initiating play or sequence that started that aggression?
So really the aggression started from the start. It was from the beginning. There were a lot of little things that kind of almost spilled over into the second half where the game got close, because it was still physical in the first half, but the game was not close. Syracuse led 8-2 at the half, but there was, Syracuse was, not too happy with a couple of the calls. They felt like, Colgate was holding them on a couple possessions, and there were a couple times where, Colgate was getting some calls that Syracuse did not. So it kind of all spilled over, and then once the game really got close, that's when you felt the physicality. There was a play in the third quarter where Owen Hiltz just lowered his shoulder like a linebacker at midfield. I mean, it was hits like that. I mean, Jimmy McCool diving on the ground to try and back up possessions. It was all over the place, but there wasn't really a main sequence, John. It was more of a, it started in the first quarter, but the game wasn't close enough to the point where it really had any impact until we got to the second half, where Colgate made that little run. I think scoring the first 2 goals of the second half was absolutely huge for Colgate, because that gave them the belief, their energy, the bench started to get all riled up, and that's when we really got the physicality going.
Well, that physicality definitely got going in that second half, and it exposed a little bit more, too. It appeared more because the game got to be closer. Rahil, you just mentioned those first 2 goals in that second half. How about the first 3 goals in the fourth quarter? Colgate climbed back into this game, and John and I are sitting here saying that Syracuse sort of let off their guard a little bit, made a couple of random mistakes that they can't afford having to happen against ranked opponents going forward, especially down the rest of the season. What was it for you that set this Colgate team apart right off the jump in the fourth quarter when they knew they had to score coming out of that final frame?
Well, it all started when they started winning faceoffs, right? Nico, you touched on it. We talked about it on Sports Night yesterday that Syracuse had the huge advantage with Johnny Mullen. And Johnny Mullen was great in the first quarter. I mean, Syracuse won 6 of the 8 faceoffs in the opening quarter. But then, all of a sudden, Mullen got a couple of violations. Colgate started to work really well in the faceoff circle. And I think, again, the first 2 goals of the second half, where Colgate cut it to 8-4, that's when things, even though Syracuse went on that 3-goal run after, that's where Colgate really started to believe, because first possession, Mullen actually wins the faceoff, but then tries to throw a little behind the back pass. It's a turnover. Colgate comes down and scores, and then Mullen wins another faceoff, but then, or he supposedly should have, and he just completely whiffed on scooping up the ground ball. Colgate came down, scored again. But really, Nico, once the Raiders started to get consistent enough possessions, then they really got back into this game. But, I mean, to be completely honest, I really don't think Colgate played that bad of offense in the first half. I think it was more just a Jimmy McCool playing out of his mind to start the game. And then the third quarter, eventually when you start peppering the goalie with that many shots, they start to go in. And I think that was kind of the main difference.
It's pretty much what John and I were saying. Was, this offense, you look at it for Colgate, I mean, they're obviously one of the best in the country. It doesn't show up on the numbers, but I just think you got to give Syracuse a lot of credit, like you were saying, John.
Absolutely. Syracuse's ball movement all day was really, really effective, and John Mullen winning them faceoffs is the biggest reason. When you have possession of the ball, that's always going to be massive. If any of our listeners have some questions for Rahil Jaswal, you could call in at 315-443-2011. You could also text us at 315-556-3929 and get your questions into Rahil. We got about 15 minutes left here on the double overtime, so get them in fast. But Rahil, going back to what we saw in this game, a lot of what we were seeing downstairs and something that stung the momentum for Colgate constantly in this game was the 10-man ride for the Raiders, which at some points might have been effective, at others definitely wasn't. You had the Billy Dwan goal and the Joey Spallina goal on empty netters. What did you see, Rahil, from the 10-man ride today? Do you see it as an effective strategy, or did you think that Colgate would have been better off running a regular ride?
So the 10-man ride was really interesting, because when it was happening during the game, I was wondering as to why they continued to stick with it. But in the press conference after, Matt Carrick, the head coach for Colgate, said that he's just going to have to live with those mistakes, because that's just the way they play lacrosse. And also, he brought up the point that, Syracuse made a couple long shots, 50, 60 yards, but those are really tough to execute. So, he's going to they're going to just live with those issues. But Gary Gate also in his press conference talked about how prepared they were for the 10-man ride. So the 10-man ride was a little bit of an interesting one, but I don't think Colgate is going to have many regrets, because that's just the way they play.
Yeah, I mean, last week Colgate's head coach after the Bucknell loss said sometimes that's just going to happen. There's no way of preventing a goal on an empty net, but those are the risks that you kind of have to take.
100%, and again, he said that it's not they'll look back at it, see if they can try and limit that. But again, that's just the way it's going to be. And I mean, Syracuse had a lot of 50, 60-yard shots. They scored 2 of them, but they had about 3 or 4 that just missed. So again, it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, Billy Dwan has done it before this season, but it's a difficult thing to do to shoot from that far out. And he said that, if they make the shots like that, it's just something you have to live with.
Hey, Rahil, Joey Spallina, I mean, incredible day. 5 goals, 6 assists. The guy was off the charts from the start. Well, maybe not from the exact start, although he did get the 2. He got the 200 career point record. I'm kind of circling back to what Owen Hiltz did right away with that early hat trick. But Spallina setting the tone, and John and I were here talking about the way that Colgate defended or tried to defend Joey Spallina, and obviously it didn't exactly work. Is this the type of guy that you need to lock down for sure, or is it okay to let him do his thing if the other Syracuse players aren't as involved? Because right now, this Orange offense is so good because of Trey Deer's 4 goals, Owen Hiltz's 3 goals. If you stop Spallina, you still have others to go to. That's why this offense has been so lethal this season.
Well, Nico, that's what makes Joey Spallina so great. It's not what he does when it comes to just pure goal scoring. It's his playmaking ability, because he might have not scored that much at the start of the game, but I mean, he was the assist man for Owen Hiltz's 200th career point. I mean, he had 3 or 4 assists near halftime. I mean, he was really controlling the offense for Syracuse. He was like the puppet master behind Cage, because when they gave him time, he was able to dissect everything with his vision, make the right pass, whether that be Sam English with the behind-the-back goal or Luke Roa with the long-range rippers. Like, that's what makes Joey Spallina so good. It's not just what he does from a pure goal-scoring angle. I think people don't realize how smart of a lacrosse player he is, and I think that was on full display when he was behind Cage today, just dissecting and picking apart Colgate's defense.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen Joey Spallina do all season long. He has been the feeder for Syracuse.
100%.
Just making the right plays at the right times. Maybe it doesn't even result in an assist. Sometimes it's just Spallina reads the play so well where he sees 2-3 passes ahead on certain times, and we saw a lot of that today.
Well, to me, it's if Joey Spallina doesn't get involved right away, I think this team's better, because that means others are doing what they do. Even if Spallina doesn't need to score right away.
Right, but
he didn't score until the second.
That's
maybe
not just getting, but that's not what classifies as getting involved. Though is also assisting.
Yes,
right. Spallina should be touching the ball behind Cage almost every possession at some point.
100%. I just think the main difference is he's not forcing his shots like he has in years past.
No, that was the main difference today. Correct.
Yes.
I thought that Spallina being more assertive was a good thing. I thought Syracuse's offense was at its best when Spallina was getting over to goal line extended, riding up the crease, and causing havoc in front of Cage, right? Those were the goals that we saw from Spallina that were big tone setters. And I honestly think it's better if he forces a shot here or forces a shot there, because look at Maryland. That is the best example I could possibly think of. If you look at the Maryland loss, 11-7, Joey Spallina took 4 shots in that game and really didn't do much trying to score. He had 2 really late in the first half. Outside of that, didn't score at all. And we saw Syracuse's offense was totally stagnant there. And today it was totally different because Joey Spallina was picking his spots to pass, but also getting aggressive when he needed to. That was massive.
Well, you talk about. I thought that was the difference in the way he performed today, in that Joey Spallina picked the correct moments to be aggressive. Because at the end of the third quarter, when Colgate was starting to make a run, Spallina was aggressive from behind the cage, got a spin move in, and scored to finish the third quarter. That was a really big goal, and of course, can we not talk about? I mean, the last goal that he scored to kind of put the game away. I mean, that's just classic Joey Spallina being aggressive and doing what he does best. Today he put the team on his back, and I think this was a really unbelievable performance from Spallina. And I know he gets a lot of criticism for his performance against ranked opponents, but I mean, those people better be singing his praises today, because an 11-point outing today was unbelievable, and Syracuse needed every single one of those.
Speaking of Spallina, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what happened with him right in front of the cage when he goes down and then he just checks the defender in front of him? Could we just get like a breakdown of what you saw from the dome there?
So, Spallina, all I saw Spallina cut, and he just flew up in the air when I looked, and then fell to the turf, and he was actually grabbing at his groin for a little bit, and then responded with a check as he was going to the sideline. So I think it's just like we talked about earlier, the chippiness. It was all back and forth. I mean, if the officials wanted to, they could have called a bunch of more unsportsmanlike, some checks, illegal motions, or anything like that. They could have really, really thrown a lot of laundry in this game, but they let most of it go, and I think that was one of the examples of it right there. But yeah, certainly a real physical one that everyone felt. I think everyone's going to be feeling that game when they wake up tomorrow morning.
All right, Rahil, so 5 games remaining. Chippy ending to that game. Syracuse let Colgate slide a little bit there in the 4th. What small adjustments does this team have to make going forward? And maybe you get one more slide in Virginia, because they're not at the level that the other teams that Syracuse plays are: Duke, North Carolina, Cornell, Notre Dame. You get one more week in Virginia to fix everything. Let's put it that way. Even though Virginia's a good team as well. What has to change going forward? What do you need to see from this squad to see Syracuse make a run here late in the season?
Well, talking about Virginia next week, I would like to see a little bit more out of Johnny Mullen when it comes to the faceoffs. Because first half he was great. He was dominant, but then he kind of went through that stretch where Colgate got back into it because they were able to win 3 or 4 faceoffs in a row. So maybe a more consistent performance from him. Obviously, he's one of the best faceoff men in the country, and I don't think he's going to be able to dominate like he did against Manhattan, Harvard in every single game, because I don't think that's just humanly possible to do that consistently. But maybe a little bit more of a consistent performance from him. I thought he would have a similar game. I'm actually very surprised that Colgate was able to keep the face-off battle relatively close, considering they had lost, they'd lost the battle against Lafayette by 7. They had lost it to Bucknell, but so overall, I'd like to see John Mullen maybe play a little bit more consistent down the stretch. But again, he did what he had to do at the end and get in Syracuse those possessions.
Absolutely, Rahil. We thank you for your time and being the ears and eyes of us over at the JMA Wireless Dome. But it's time for our final words. Nico, I'll toss it over to you first. What is your final word for today's game on Colgate and Syracuse?
This team has got to fix the small mistakes that continue to plague them at various points in different games. Today, it was those small sections in the second half where they looked to fall apart for a couple minutes. And these ranked teams coming up, and especially in the playoffs, depends on what happens there, Syracuse will lose a game because of instances like this. So that could be Colgate scoring 3 goals to open the 4th quarter. That could be small face-off losses later on. That could be Jimmy McCool letting his guard down at certain times. Whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be perfect every game. No team is going to be perfect every game. But you've got to limit the small mistakes that you know you can play better. And that could be also Joey Spallina making some bad passes against Harvard. He fixed those today against Colgate. This is a dominant game from Joey Spallina, but it's got to be a collective group initiative to limit these small mistakes, and it'll force Syracuse to be a better team overall. That's what they got to do going forward. Again, they got one more game to fix those things against Virginia next Saturday before a very, very tough end to the season for Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about small mistakes, and it sort of parlays into what I'm about to say, because this guy made a pretty small mistake that could have started some riling up of the score later on in the game. But to totally counter what I'm saying here, you got to make Trey Deer the permanent starter. That is the biggest takeaway that I got from this game.
The guy's legit.
Back-to-back 4-goal performances for attackman Trey Deer. When he is in the starting lineup and getting that valuable playing time, this Syracuse offense looks like the best in the nation. And that is, I don't want to say undeniable, but when Joey Spallina and Trey Deer can connect at such a high level, on so many different instances, it gives a totally different life to this SU team. You didn't see it as much against Johns Hopkins because that was Trey Deer's first career start. I won't knock him on a game where he only took 3 shots. That's just not very Trey Deer-like, as we've seen in the last 2 games. But against Manhattan, Trey Deer was the primary attacker in that game, getting the ball constantly, and he loved that role. He stayed in it very well. 4 scores against the Jaspers. And you look ahead to today, another 4 scores for Trey Deer. Trust me, he's not going to pass the ball, But, he'll put it in the cage. And that's exactly what you need from Syracuse. A true spark plug that's in the right place at the right time. Even when Finn Thompson comes back, I think Trey Deer should still be the starter over him for the rest of this season because, well, when you have a guy riding so high on momentum like that, why take him out of the lineup?
Well, he's got that it factor. And I think that's why Syracuse has been so successful because of Trey Deer. You mentioned when Thompson comes back, what do you do? Well, yeah, you should keep Deer in there. And also, not a lot of other teams have been able to see what Deer can do at this point. And that's why he's been able to score so much. I mean, you talk about a guy in Spallina where the first couple of years people figured out how to stop him, especially a lot of these ranked opponents. Trey Deer's young, and young in the sense that he hasn't played a whole lot until Finn Thompson has gone down with an injury, and it's allowed him to open up more offensively. So take advantage, ride it while it's hot, and I think Trey Deer's got a good shot going forward to be a starter and maybe be the X factor to where Syracuse can make a run here later on in the year.
Absolutely, and I think what people haven't really seen or heard from Trey Deer himself was 2 days ago when the men's lacrosse team had media availability. Trey Deer was asked about, hey, how do you feel stepping into that Finn Thompson type of role? And he said, well, it's just a next man up mentality. I want to be a lacrosse player. And to be a lacrosse player, I have to play lacrosse, right? That is the mentality that Trey Deer has taken into this starting role. And it's boded so well for him on such a consistent basis because him just being that guy that's next up for Syracuse and the one that can really step in and make big plays is massive for the offense down the line.
And that's what they need going forward. They need more Trey Deer. They need more stability in that offense, and execution wasn't a problem today, I can tell you that. They'll need that going forward.
Oh, absolutely. Production like 8 goals in 2 games is unmatched.
Not too shabby.
Not too bad in the slightest. Our next broadcast, Nico's talked about it a little bit. Syracuse takes on Virginia in Charlottesville. That game is a week from today at 1 o'clock, so an hour later on the start time. You've got McClure remodeling countdown to face-off going on the airwaves at 12:30. The dot on that game, the double overtime, goes until 4:30. Some thank yous to hand out before we get out of here. We got our producer, Griffin Marcy, our engineer, Dan Papillo, our reporter, Rahil Jaswal, and on desk, we've got Christian Doms, Nate Martin, and Ryan Croak. Thank you guys so much for such a fun double overtime, a huge win for Syracuse in this one. Number 10, Syracuse takes down number 18, Colgate, 16-12 in the JMA Wireless Dome. For John Baccio and Nico Horning, we say so long, and thank you very much. Have a good day.